Hello, my name's Heather. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a compilation video of my favorite Christmas crafts. I hope you enjoy, and keep in mind these will be out of order. Enjoy the show. Our first DIY is going to be a painted silver tray. And I'm just taking one of these trays from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be painting the bottom of it a chalkboard paint black. And I am using the chalkboard paint from Dollar Tree. I'm going to leave the sides and the edges the same because I want them to be the silver. So I'm just carefully taking my brush and going around the bottom of the inside. And you can use any kind of plate or tray, anything that will work with the chalkboard paint. And if you don't have chalkboard paint, you can always use black paint. I am going to be using a Cricut cutout for this, so I'm not really going to use chalk on it. If you really want to use chalk on it, then use the chalkboard paint, of course. But otherwise, you can use black also. So I'm using some white permanent vinyl from Cricut, and I printed out this saying, and I'm just weeding it now. I'm going through getting it all to come off so that I've just got what's going to be put on my tray left. And it was fairly intricate and detailed, so it did take me a little work to get everything off. And then once I get the big pieces off, I go back in with my little Cricut tools and weed out anything inside the lettering that was too small to come up before. And before I put this on my tray, I did the 2 coats of the black chalkboard paint, and then I also did a layer of Mod Podge. Now the reason I did that is because I don't want, when I use this transfer tape, I don't want it pulling the paint off. But you've got to have that layer of Mod Podge, and it will make it harder to get your image to adhere, but it worked out okay for me. Ideally, it'd be nice if I had my stencil paper here. I would just make a stencil of the vinyl and then I would paint on the message. But I didn't have any stencil paper, so I just did it this way and very carefully put it on the Mod Podge finish. The Mod Podge is a little slippery, and so the vinyl doesn't want to stick as well to it, but it all worked out. So I'm just now using the transfer tape, getting the image up onto it so I can transfer it onto the tray. And you can see how nice and crisp that white looks on the black. I just love that look. And I got this image from creativefabrica.com, and they have a lot of great graphics and fonts and illustrations and craft ideas. It's a great resource. I can leave a link to that in the description. So you can see I'm having a little bit of a time trying to get it to adhere. And then once I got it done, I made sure it was all pressed down well, and I put another coat of Mod Podge on. And I added some lace for the hanger, and this is how it turned out. let's get started with our first craft. The first one is going to be a mixed media piece with a Christmas trees as the theme. And I'm taking this, it's just kind of like a plaque, but it was the back of some kind of a picture or something we had once. It's like a wooden tile kind of basically. So I'm just going to repurpose it. You could use a canvas or any other kind of piece of wood. I'm taking the Mod Podge and putting a layer on top, and then I'm covering it with this black scrapbook paper. I took these little Christmas trees. I'm going to use 3 of them for this, and I'm kind of repurposing them. They're meant to be ornaments. I got them in an ornament pack off of Amazon, and it came with reindeer and bells and little ornament shapes. And so I'm taking 3 of these and I'm gluing them down with some Mod Podge onto scrapbook papers that I want to have their patterns be. So after I get them glued, I take my X-Acto knife, and it's just a small crafting one that I use, and I'm just going to carefully go around each edge, and that will give nice clean edges to the trees. I am using a self-healing mat to cut on so that the cuts won't hurt anything. So just make sure you remember that when you do cut with a craft knife so that you don't ruin your desk, because I have had that happen before. So I'm getting those done. Now I'm just going to take the wood piece with the scrapbook paper, and I'm just going to take my sanding block and do the edges so that it gives it a little bit of a worn look and just makes the edges a little bit cleaner. Next, I'm going to take some ink. I'm using Tim Holtz's Distressed ink in frayed burlap is the color. And I just put some on my paintbrush here. It's a stiff brush, and I'm just going around the edges to kind of make it look a little bit worn and just not so bright and stark in color. I don't know if you can tell very well in the picture, but the 2 of the trees on the outside edge are going to be this metallic gold and white papers. And then the one in the middle is white with black polka dots. And I thought they'd look so pretty against that black paper that I put down as the background. Next, I'm going to kind of play around with where I want the trees to go, because I did cut out the words "Oh Christmas Tree" on my Cricut. And you can use stickers or stencils, or you can leave off the words if you want. But I decided to put mine on with the Cricut transfer, so I'm using transfer tape right now and peeling that off. And then I'll get my trees in place and start gluing them. I am just using my hot glue, and it will hold it down fine because it's got the paper to adhere to. I did not do a coat of Mod Podge on it yet as a sealer, because otherwise these trees would not have stuck very well. The Mod Podge makes it a slick surface, and then the glue doesn't work as well. So I'm just leaving it as is for now. And then I found this bag of little stars, little gold stars. I believe I got these at Michael's, and there were a whole bunch of them in a little bag. And they're very handy for a lot of different crafts. So I'm just using the hot glue and gluing them on as well. And you can't really tell from this, but the trees, since they're wooden, they're raised up a little bit. It kind of gives a little bit of a 3D appearance, and it looks really neat. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. Our second craft is going to be mixed media piece as well, and it too is going to have a Christmassy theme. So we are going to start by covering a canvas. This is just a flat one. It does not have the wood frame. And I went with some old hymnal papers, and I just ripped out pieces of them and glued them randomly across the canvas. They're going to make the backdrop to our Christmas scene. Then I took about 6 or 7 coordinating papers in the colors that I wanted to use, and I'm just cutting out triangles. You can see there the triangular trees in all different sizes. It's going to look like a little bit of a forest. So I'm just finishing cutting up the trees, and then here I'm just kind of getting an idea how I want to place them. And then once I got that figured out, I carefully moved them to the sides because you want to make sure you do the ones that are in the back first. So you need to do the back row of trees and then work your way towards the front row. And you can see I've got all different sizes. And then I'm just kind of putting them down, alternating colors and patterns to make it look nice. You can see the musical background a little better here too. And now you don't have to use the music. You can use just other scrapbook papers. You can always print music off of the internet, and there's a lot of good free sites. Just type in free sheet music and a lot comes up. Or you can even put in free vintage music printables and a lot will come up that way too. I love doing mixed media pieces because it's just, can be anything. You can change things out how you want, and it's just a good way to use up a lot of different things you might have and a lot of different papers and paints and just anything you can think about using, you can use in a mixed media piece. And it's very forgiving because they can be your own personal style. So here I'm just gradually going through and getting each row where it needs to be. And I'm just putting a coat of Mod Podge on each one. It doesn't have to be a super thick coat of Mod Podge because I will be putting on a finishing coat once everything's down. And you can see how I'm just kind of layering the different patterns and colors. And then any that we're showing where there might be a little bit of a trunk of a tree, I put some brown. And then I'm glued that down. And then I'm also using those same gold stars. And I'm not putting them on all of the trees, just random ones throughout. And I'm gluing those on with hot glue. I want to thank you all for watching today, and please stay tuned after this one. I'm going to show you a few other styles that I've done in the same theme and the same fashion, but some different colors combinations that I've done in the past of some that I've sold, and just other ones that I've done that are kind of fun to see some different ones. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you'll subscribe if you like what you see. And thank you so much for always leaving me such great comments. It really helps a lot, and I really appreciate it. So now I'm going in and just distressing a little bit with that Tim Holtz frayed burlap distress ink. Kind of went around the edges of the trees to distress and also around the edges of the canvas. And now I'm just putting that final layer of Mod Podge on everything to seal it. I did not Mod Podge over the stars. I did everything else. This kind of gives it a nice coat that protects it from the dust and damage, and it also holds everything in place. And here's how it turned out. So some of the extra ones I wanted to show you that I've done in the past. I did this one with all the different kinds of greens, and you can see what I used here. I used different stickers for the stars. And then I did this one here for a friend, and I used flat blue beads for the stars on that one. And then I did this real small one also with different breaks. So I'm going to start off with one of these big tag looking signs. Look like a giant tag, like a gift tag. And I'm going to use the back side because the front side I can use for some, like it is if I'd like to, or I can always cover it with some craft paper or something too if I don't want it to be seen. I'm just going to give it a light coat of the white, kind of not too saturated because I want it to look worn and shabby. I cut a wine cork in half with my utility knife, and that's going to be the base of the tree. And then I took these little bulbs that I got from Dollar Tree, and I did get these last year. I did see them again this year. I didn't see the blues and silvers this year, but I did see other colors of them. So what I'm going to do is I combine two different boxes of colors, and I'm going to put 6 on the bottom row, and then 5 on the next row, then 4, 3, 2, and 1 to make the shape of a Christmas tree. And you can see I'm kind of gluing them all different ways, some upside down, some right side up, just kind of filling in the gaps as they're created. And I am using hot glue and also Aleene's tacky glue because otherwise the ornaments, the plastic on the ornaments usually doesn't stick very well with hot glue. And then I found these words that were glittered already. This says joy to all, and I got these in a $1 pack at Michael's last year, but I know they have them most every year, and they usually say all kinds of holiday phrases or words on them. I'm going to keep the jute hanger on it. That was already on the piece when I bought it. And after I get those glued down, this is how it came out. I've got 3 Christmas crafts to do today. The first one is going to use this calendar, the 2022 calendar from Dollar Tree. And we're going to be using this last page, which is the December calendar picture. I'm also going to be using this Gnome for the Holidays big ornament sign from Dollar Tree. I'm going to start out with putting it on top of the Christmas page and tracing around it, trying to get it where the words fit on there. It's not going to cover the whole thing exactly. The top doesn't matter so much because that ornament silver part that we took off is going to go back on. So that will cover the majority of that. And then we'll have something else that's going to also cover the bottom. So after we get that done, you can either glue it to the top side or the underneath side of the ornament. I did the back side because I just thought, well, if I ever want to use the front, that way I can. I'm going to put a decent amount of Mod Podge on the surface here. The calendar paper is not very heavy. It's kind of flimsy. So you don't want to get too much on that it's hard to smooth the calendar page. So I'm just centering it on, making sure that the edges have the glue so they get stuck down. And I did end up having some creases with it, and a lot of them, as the glue dries, it kind of pulls them out. But I end up putting a little bit of a finish on this, and it really didn't show up too much since I got it done. So you might have a little bit of some wrinkling in the paper. Now I'm just taking my small utility knife and I'm going around the edges and getting any of the paper that overextended on the edges. And I'm going to take the silver part of the ornament and use hot glue to put it back on. You want to be careful because that does make the metal hot. And then I was trying to decide which rope I wanted to use, and I looked at both of them the Dollar Tree has, and I decided to go with this darker one. So I just started at the bottom because that's down there where that brown is from the ornament. We want to cover that. So I started down there, and then I just went around, and I did use super glue and hot glue to get the rope glued down. And you can see it covers a lot of that brown that was at the bottom. I did take a little white paint pen and color in white the little bit that still showed after I got the nautical rope. So under the trees there, where there's some of the wood showing, you just want to use a paint marker or something white to fill that in if there's any that you can still see after you get the rope glued down. So after that, I'm taking a brush and my distress ink. I'm using frayed burlap, which is by Tim Holtz, and I'm going around the edges, just trying to make it look a little more worn and antique-like. Mostly just went around the trees and the words and a little around the edges. And then I'm going to put a layer of Mod Podge over the top. And this is going to help seal it so it stays in good shape. And while that's drying, I'm going to make a bow to put on. I'm going to fold this 6 times onto itself, and I'll fold it in half and make a little notch on each side so that I can wrap a piece of twine, or you can use a pipe cleaner, and I'll just wrap it and tie tight so that it holds it all together. And then I can start fluffing out my bow. There'll be 3 like hoops on each side. So I'm just going to keep moving them around. And I will dovetail the two ends because they'll show also. And when I got it where it's a good shape, I'll go ahead and use some hot glue and glue it down. And we'll just keep fluffing until it looks how I like. And then I'm going to put some of these little pine cones from the Dollar Tree onto the middle of the bow, just to kind of finish it off. I just love this ribbon I got at the Dollar Tree. It really brought in the red from the word Christmas, and the burlap and the nautical rope go well together. And then I remembered that I had some Mod Podge that had glitter in it, and it looks like snow. So I was just going to put it on the trees, but I decided to put it over the whole thing, and it turned out really neat. You're not going to be able to see it very well in the pictures, but it really added a nice finish to it. I'm going to make these one bright green and one bright red. So I got these little trays at Dollar Tree, and each one's a little different. They have a different cutout for the handles, so they might have some different styles at your Dollar Tree as well. And I'm just using apple barrel paint and giving everything a good coat. And I was using my hot air gun to help dry them in between coats, because I did do 2 coats on both trays, and I did the back and sides and top and everything. And then I found a little Cookies for Santa graphic, and I used that with my Cricut to print out a little saying that I'm going to put on the bottom of each one. So here I'm just taking my Cricut tools here and weeding out the parts that I don't want to put on the tray. And then I'm taking some clear transfer tape, and that will help me pull off just what I want to go on the tray and transfer it from the paper onto the tray. If you don't have a Cricut or a cutting machine, you can use a big sticker, or you can draw something. You could even print out a graphic of Santa Claus, or use an old card, cut apart like a card that might have a Santa image or something on it, and you can use Mod Podge to put that on the bottom of the tray. So you can use your imagination. Come up with something cute, even if you don't have a cutting machine. So I'm just going ahead now and transferring that onto the trays. Sorry about my dog barking off and on here. He's hearing somebody outside. Silly boy. He has to protect me though, you know. So here we have both trays with the words transferred. And then I pulling out some more of this ribbon. I've got a green and a red, and I've got these white snowflakes from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to tie them onto one side with the handle. I thought it would just add a little something else neat to it and make it a little fancier. So I just took these plastic snowflakes from Dollar Tree and just tied them on. That way, if the kids untie them, it's not going to hurt anything. They're not breakable or anything like that. And the only other thing I did is I did Mod Podge the bottoms so that it seals the paint and also the graphic. I just think they look adorable, and the kids are going to love them. First thing today is going to be a Noel sign, and we're going to start with 4 of these small squares that you can get at Dollar Tree or on Amazon. They're just little wood squares, and we're going to be using this chalk paint by Folk Art, and it's hard to see in the picture, but it's kind of a grayish white. So I'm just putting on a dry coat and not too heavy because I want it to look distressed. And after I get that on, I'm going to dry that good and then flip them over and attach them. I'm going to use popsicle sticks. When I got done, I thought, boy, I should have just used a paint stir stick. It would have probably been easier, but I was using these that I had out at the time, so I just took these popsicle sticks and some hot glue and made sure that each of the squares had some popsicle stick on them to attach them to the other one. And after I got these 3 on, I thought I needed a little bit more support, so I added a couple more. I've only got 2 crafts for you today. I've been sick this week. You can probably hear it in my throat a little bit. I've had a really bad cold or something. Don't think it's COVID. If it is, it's very mild. But I have had the vaccine and I have had COVID before. So whatever it is, I'm coughing a lot. So I wasn't able to get many crafts done this week for you guys. But I got 2 here that I'll show you, and we'll go from there. So after I get these all glued together, I cut out the letters N, E, and L on the Cricut. And I did use my heat transfer vinyl because that's what I had available in the red. So I did have to get out my Cricut Easy Press. Now, if you don't have an Easy Press, you can use an iron. And I just did this for 40 seconds at 300 degrees. And I had to go over each of the letters a couple of times. After that, I took some Evergreen garland, and it's not real Evergreen. It was just a plasticky type, and I cut that down a lot so that it could be the circle for the O. And I added some berries and a little bow. That's all there is to this one. The next thing we're going to make is a Merry and Bright sign. We're going to start with a wood round, and these are just shy of 12 inches across. Very lightweight. I got these on Amazon. You can get them in many different sizes. And I'm just using some brown paint mixed with some water, so it makes somewhat of a stain look instead of painted. And after I got one side painted and dried, I just flipped it over so that both sides would be painted. And I'm just doing the same mixture here. It's really a lot less messy than stain, and I like it because you don't have the smell. So it gives that look, and all I have for stain right now is some dark stain, and I wanted this to be a little bit lighter. After I got both sides dry, I did go ahead and take some washi tape. And I'm going to start taping off where I want the white color to be that I'm going to paint. So I'm going to go a little more than halfway up. So I'm going to put the Merry and Bright kind of halfway on the wood and then the rest of the way on the white. Now the washi tape that I had didn't stick the greatest, but it did come out with a clean edge. So as long as you get some tape, it can be painter's tape, works better. I had washi tape on hand, so as long as you get a good seal on that tape and then paint, you should get a clean line when you pull the tape up. So now I actually end up putting 2 coats of white paint on this bottom. I decided I wanted this one to be more of a neutral sign. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to give this one as a gift or keep it for myself. I've kind of got 2 themes going on at my house right now. I've kind of a red and green traditional Christmas and then a silver, black, and white Christmas going on. So then I took Merry and Bright on my HTV vinyl, which is heat transfer vinyl on the Cricut. And I'm using my Cricut Easy Press again and ironing that on. And then after I get Merry and Bright ironed on, I'm going to make an easy bow. I'm just going to take this awesome ribbon that I got. I believe I got this at Julyan's, and it's wool feeling, and it's just such a neat texture. So I'm folding it up on itself 6 times, and then I'm going to cut in the middle, halfway up, or halfway in on each side. I'm going to put some little slices in the ribbon so that I can tie it together and then start fluffing out my bow. And I'm not the greatest bow maker, but you just keep working with it and playing with it, and you can always, once you get it glued down, move it around and kind of glue down where you want things, and it helps a little bit. So I decided I'm going to put my bow up here on the top. I'm going to put it right in the center. And I'm just using hot glue to get that in place. And you can see I'm kind of gluing some of the edges and the poofs in place where I want them to be. And then I do decide to put something in the middle of this bow, and I'm going to just do a silver jingle bell. And that's all I did for this project. You just have 2 easy signs today. Hopefully I feel better, and next week we'll get some more videos for you. I'm going to start with this sign from Dollar Tree. Obviously it was from Halloween, and there was some glitter on it, but I'm going to just start with a throwaway brush so that the glitter, if it gets on the brush, it won't be that big of a deal to get rid of. And I'm just going to put a coat of Mod Podge over the whole thing. Then I'm going to take a piece of scrapbook paper and place it on top, covering as much as I can of the sign, and get that stuck on there nice and tight. I'm going to flip it over and take off this twine, and then I'm going to take my Cricut utility knife, or any sharp utility knife will work, And I'm just going to go around the edges to give it a nice clean cut. And this really is an easy way when you've got an irregular shaped piece that you're working with. And then I'm going to take a little bit that's left of scrap, and I'm going to make the cover for this top piece as well. I'm just going to use the same principle. And this top piece is going to be covered, so I didn't go ahead and line up the pattern or anything like that. I'll get this cut off here. And then we can go ahead and start. I'm going to be doing an assemblage. And an assemblage is just basically 3D art. So I'm going to be using this reindeer that's silver glitter, and it's from Dollar Tree. And then these two trees, they are also from Dollar Tree, and they were sold in one package. So far I've got $3 in the sign with everything shown there. And then I found these words last year. It was either at Dollar Tree or Michael's, but it was $1 for the whole package. And I found the one that says Happy Holidays, and it's in silver glitter also. So this is a very simple sign and an easy way to get some glam in your house for the holidays. And if you didn't want to make it glam, of course you could put red and green paper behind it. You could put black behind it. Whatever colors work best with your Christmas decor. I'm just going to be hot gluing all of the 3D pieces on. And I've had some people ask what mixed media is. Mixed media is when you have a piece of artwork and it uses several different mediums, such as ink, paint, pencil, any of those. And it's also using different items, such as you might mix wood and paper and things like that. So this is considered a mixed media piece because we're using lots of different mediums. But it's also considered an assemblage because an assemblage is when the items are 3D and stick out from the art. So this piece is going to be a mixed media assemblage, and it's my favorite kind of art to make. It's just very forgiving. It's your own style. You can use little bits here and there of whatever you've got on hand. It doesn't take any special equipment or supplies. It's just whatever you want to do with it. I did go ahead and glue down the Happy Holidays, and I also had some little rhinestones and patterns that I added between the words just to give it a little extra up above there. And then I took my Mod Podge and put a layer on the bottom there, and I added some of the fake snow from Dollar Tree just to give it a little bit more down below there for your eye to look at and kind of bring the piece together. Then I'm taking this roll of ribbon that I got at Dollar Tree that's got these sparkles in it, and I'm going to add it up at the top. Just gonna hot glue it down. You can see there where it covered the piece that we had to patch up there. And then this little, I got a bag of little teeny balls. There was white and silver ones, different sizes in a bag at Dollar Tree. And that's what I've got there in the middle of the bow. And I know the video doesn't do it justice with the glitter and the sparkle, but it's just so beautiful in person. The second craft that we're going to do today is going to be another kind of assemblage, a mixed media piece. And I'm going to start with this shadow box from Dollar Tree. I removed the floral and I'm going to use that for something else. And then I measured, and it's just a little bit over 6 inches each way. So I'm going to use some scrapbook paper. Here I'm just positioning it where I want it on the paper. And then I'm going to use my paper trimmer. I apologize for my voice today. I'm still sick, but I wanted to get these couple videos out for you guys today. And hopefully I don't lose my voice completely in the next couple of days. So once I get that to fit in the box, I'm just going to kind of see here how it's going to look with the little Christmas trees that I'm going to use. Just wanted to see where they fall on the paper. I had lots of glitter to vacuum up there. These little desktop vacuums are so handy. Now I'm going to put a little super glue down in the box and put the paper in place. And then I cut out this Christmas Tree Farm sign. I got this wording and graphic from Cricut Design Space, and it is 99 cents unless you have Cricut Design Space access, which is $9.99 a month. Right now I've just been buying them for 99 cents as I need them. If you don't have a Cricut, you can hand letter or use stickers, however you want to get the graphic on the page. It doesn't have to be as big of a graphic or as many words as what I've got, of course. But that's what I went with. And then I'm going to take these gold glittery bottle brush trees. And I just love the gold on them. It's so beautiful. And I'm just going to start gluing the bottoms in place. I'm going to kind of alternate positions and also the height of the trees. I'll get these all in place. So this craft is very simple. The hardest part is, of course, if you want to put a graphic on it, getting that and finding one that will work. Otherwise, I just did the trees. I stuck the star up in the corner, and I just think it turned out so pretty. The first thing that we're going to make today is a mop head wooden tree. And I get these wooden tree shapes, and I'd like to show you 3 different things you can do with them today. So we're going to start out with this mop head from Dollar Tree. And they're very easy to pull out. You just start tugging on them and they'll pull right out, and you'll have the individual pieces of rope. And then I'm just going to take the wood tree. You can paint it first if you want, but it's going to all be covered. So I chose not to. And I just kind of started, you can see where I started it up just a little bit on the side, because we're going to kind of wrap it back and forth. We don't want the edges to be raw edges, but rather curved with the fabric, if that makes sense. So you can see then how I just bend it over and keep going until I run out, and then I'll just do that with each of the pieces. And I just used hot glue, and it worked perfectly. No need to use any other kind of glue. It stayed on nice and strong. So you can see I'm just going back and forth. It did take a little while to get all of it on, but it wasn't terrible. And it was worth it. It turns out really cute. So I just keep going side to side. And of course, you can use the brown nautical rope from Dollar Tree if you'd like. I thought this one was nice because it just kind of looked like a tree that had been flocked with all the white on it. That or snowed on. And I'm not going to show you the whole process, just enough where you can see how I'm doing it. So now I'm getting up closer to the top. And of course it goes a lot faster the further up you go. And I only used probably half of the mop head ropes, so there's plenty to do a couple or for other projects as well. And I probably used 5 of the jumbo glue sticks, so it'll all depend on your glue gun, but it did use quite a bit of glue, so you might want to keep that in mind before you start. So let me know down below what you do with your wooden trees like this. I've got 2 more I'll show you after this one. 2 more ideas. And there's so many different ones online. And this one I just kind of was thinking about what I could do with it. And it seemed like it would work out pretty good in my head. And I was really happy with how it came out when I got it done. So as you get up to the top, obviously it's going to be a little harder to get all of it going up the right direction. And you want to just keep going as far as you can. And I ended up on the very tip top part, just adding a little loop that I kind of just formed on the tree. You can kind of see there where I just folded it back and then cut off what I didn't need. And then, I don't know if you've seen these at your Dollar Tree, but mine has this garland, and it's very small. It's like a brown wire, and it's got little jingle bells on it. And my store had red jingle bells, gold, or silver ones. I believe they maybe had some mixed colored ones as well, like red and gold, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But I picked up a couple of each of the colors, and it didn't even take a full one to cover this tree. Here's what they look like. And they jingle, a nice light jingle sound when they're all together. So I just start out by hot gluing it down, and I just hot glue it every so often. I'm just going to kind of weave my way back and forth up to the top of the tree. And I just think it looks so cute. A little bit rustic with the mop head and then the rope on this garland. It is wire, so you can move it and bend it how you need, and it stays in place nicely. So yeah, I don't know what else I'll use it for, but there were lots of them, so I think they'll work out for several different crafts this year. So you can see there what I have left of the roll. And then I'm just going to take a little brown paint and paint the base here. I wanted to keep this simple. You could, of course, put other little bits and bobs on there to decorate it. You could put a sign or some words in the center of it. I just put this little red bow on top, and I think it just was perfectly simple. The next one, we're going to use a very cool tool that I found at Dollar Tree. You can see it to the right bottom there. It's kind of light blue, and it's got flecks of white through it, so it looks like snow. So I got the idea to use it to look like it was snowing. So I painted this tree cutout in the blue color, similar to the blue of the tool. Now, they also did have a green one with the white flecks, and I have some of it too. I thought it'd be cute if you painted the tree green and then used the green and white on it. So, use whatever colors work best for you. But I just thought this stuff was pretty neat. I then printed out Let It Snow from my Cricut, and I'm going to put it just in the middle of the tree. I did paint the trunk black because I wanted it to tie in with the letters without bringing in brown too. And you can see I did a real light coat to look distressed on the paint. So once I get the Let It Snow in place where I like it, I go ahead and take the transfer tape off. And it really would work out great with stickers as well. And here you can see I start messing around with the tool. And once you unroll it, you can't even see the blue as much, especially now because it blends in with the paint. So it's just going to give it a snowy look. So first I spray some spray adhesive down, and then I just layer each piece. Kind of tap it down so it sticks. And then I can go around and cut off all the extra. I just use a little tiny pair of scissors and just cut away the extras and make sure I patted down the edges so that it stuck well with the glue, and it worked out really great. I decided to leave it on the trunk of the tree as well, since it kind of looked like it was blizzarding outside. And now I got this ribbon at Dollar Tree, and it worked perfectly color-wise. It's got the snowflakes on them that are that same blue color, and a burlap. Now these trees I ended up getting at I got the trees at Amazon. Otherwise I did get the tool at Dollar Tree and the ribbon. So yeah, I ordered them off of Amazon. I know Oriental Trading Company has some too. I just bought several in a package, and they weren't very expensive. So after I got the bow put on, I did add a little white, one of the styrofoam white snowflakes that they have in packs at Dollar Tree. I did end up adding that to the middle of my bow, which you'll see in the final video of it here coming up. I just dovetailed my edges on my ribbon, and then I'm going to put a hanger on the back, which I did on the last video, the mop head one also. I just didn't put it on video, but all three of these trees I'm just using jute cord, and I'm making a loop, putting some glue down, sticking a little hunk of ribbon over it to make it look a little nicer. And that's all I did for this. our next tree is going to be painted. And as with the other trees as well, you can make these any colors or styles you want. Just take my idea and use it as inspiration to make them your own, because you know the possibilities are endless as far as what you could put on the mop head tree, how you could decorate it, the different colored paints you can use on this one and the last one. So just use your imagination and let your creativity kind of run wild, and you'll come up with lots of ideas, I'm sure. So this one I am using some folk art chalk paint. It was a sage color. I think it was called Sage Blossom. And after it dries, I'm just going to take a circle stencil. And I'm just taking a stencil brush here from Dollar Tree. And I'm just going around and making some dots all over it. I'd love to know which of these are your favorite down below in the comments. And also, thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate all of you so much. And those of you that maybe haven't subscribed yet, if you'd like to see more videos like these, please consider subscribing. We have lots of fun. So here I'm just drawing some of these spots off. I didn't want my stencil, it's kind of big, but I thought, well, there's no use in me making another one when I've got this one, so I just decided to use it, and it worked pretty well. I did have to take a damp wet wipe, and I just went around the edges of a couple that had bled a little bit onto the other paint, and it worked fine. I didn't have to touch up any paint or anything. And then I'm just making a simple bow again for the top of this one. I did get this bow at Julyan's Fabric. They had a buy 3 get 2 free a few weeks ago, and so I got it very affordably. And the reason I did the gray and cream color check is because I have gray in my living room, and I'm probably going to keep this one here in the house. And here's a look at all 3 of them together. Each of them is so different in their own way, but yet the same base. Third DIY is going to be a cute little owl sign. We're going to start with one of these shadow box picture frames from Dollar Tree. And I'm just taking out the backing and the glass. I'm gonna set that aside for now. I'm actually not even gonna use it, so it'll be put away for something else. I'm going to take out the paper so I can use it as a template, and I'm just gonna draw off the measurements on some scrapbook paper that's gonna coordinate with my sign. So I'm just going to take my paper trimmer and get it cut down to the size that I need. And then I'm going to use just a regular glue stick, nothing special, and just give it a good coating of glue so that the paper sticks well to it. And you're just going to want to make sure most of the cardboard is covered. And then that little wooden piece that was inside, I'm still gonna use. But first I decided I wanted to distress it around the edges a little bit. Now it's not real wood, it's just a wood paper over it, but it did work fine just to lightly sand. So I'm going to put the frame back together, and then that is what is going to be where our owl sits, in that bottom right corner. So here I'm just trying to figure out where I want the wording to go. Here I'm just taking off the vinyl that doesn't need to be there. I'm going to weed out the small pieces. And then you can always look up different phrases to different Christmas songs and see how the word owl fits. There were a few different ones that I thought of when I was doing the Owl Be Home for Christmas. I just thought it seemed pretty cute. So I'm just putting on the transfer tape and peeling that off so I can transfer it onto the project. I'm kind of holding the owl on there to kind of see where it's gonna fit, where it'd be the best place to put it so it can be read. And I decided up kind of in the one corner so that there's room for the owl, and there's also still room for me to put some florals in that upper left corner. So I'm getting that tape pulled off. Sometimes it wants to be a little stubborn. There was glitter on some of those little snowflakes on my paper, and that was making it a little difficult. So then I'm just going to take some hot glue and glue the owl into place. I'm kind of wanting him sitting on that little ledge of the picture frame. And then I found some Dollar Tree florals that I thought would look good on this. These are actually a plastic. They're not even really remotely live looking, but I thought the color worked well. And then there also has the little red berries, which match the red on the owl. So I'm just kind of putting this in place. So this entire project was made with Dollar Tree items except for the scrapbook paper and of course the vinyl transfer. But the owl, the frame, the florals, and the pine cones up in the corner were all from Dollar Tree. So here's how this cute little guy turned out. I think he'll be fun to have out. The grandkids will love it too. And I got this large ornament wooden shape from Amazon. Actually, my sister gave it to me for my birthday, but that's where she got it from. I'm going to just start off with painting it a French linen color, and I'm just going to do the sides and the top. And after this gets dried, I'm going to clean up my mess a little bit here. I like to use old telephone book papers to paint on, so I'm just clearing some of those off. And then I have this very cool vintage graphic that I got from the graphicsfairy.com. And if you haven't checked out that site, it's awesome for vintage things. And this one is just a Victorian inspired Christmas, and I just think it's beautiful. So I'm just putting some Mod Podge on and rolling that down to get it to lay flat. And then I'm going to take some frayed burlap distress ink by Tim Holtz, And I start with a brush to try to get some color on to distress it a bit. And it wasn't working very well, so I started just using my finger. And I'm just going to grunge it up a little bit so it doesn't look so brand new. And I will be doing some different spin-off series from my Christmas series. I'll be doing some different styles. I've done a shabby chic one already, a glam one, and now this vintage one. And I'll be adding to those playlists as the season goes on. And I'll also probably be coming up with some others, like possibly rustic, and different things like that. So I'll mention them when I get them made. And if you want to check out the ones I've got already, I will include the playlist in my description box. So now I'm putting just a coat of Mod Podge on the top, just to protect it and to keep everything sealed down nicely. And once the ornament gets dry from the Mod Podge, I'm going to make a bow to go on the top. I decided to just go with a messy bow. So I'm taking some of this tan and green plaid. I'm sorry, the lighting got kind of bad there for a minute or two. I'm not sure why. And then I'm going to put down some burlap ribbon and some gold ribbon. And then I've got a burlap with a little snowflake on it that I'm going to put on there too. And I'm just going to make it all in an X and then tie it up tightly with a knot in the middle. And then I'll just trim down where I need the bows to be. I like to kind of do the layers, the outside layer in out a little longer, and then kind of move in as I get to the middle ribbons. But it works nice. You can just keep trimming it down till it's just the right size. And then I decided I wanted to add some sparkle and really make it look vintage. So I'm taking my Mod Podge again and just a paintbrush, and I'm just going to go around all of the edges. And as I go, I'll sprinkle on a healthy shake of gold glitter, and this is pretty fine glitter, but it's not the real fine dusty kind. And I always go a little ways and then I'll tap off the extra. This ended up being one of my favorite crafts of today. It's just so beautiful in person. Now I'm going to glue the bow on. I didn't cover the little top of the ornament as much because I wanted it to be shown, since it looks good distressed. It really gave it some character. And then I'm just going to tie some jute twine to hang it with. I decided I wanted to kind of put some spray sealer over the glitter so it wouldn't be as flaky and come off as easily. And here's this good looking guy right here. I really love it. And our last craft today will be a vintage Santa sign. I'm going to use the back of this misprinted one I made from our last craft. So I'm just putting Mod Podge right on the back of it. And then I've got this wooden sign. You can use any kind of sign or canvas or wood you've got available. If you've got one with a frame, that'll work also. I just had this as I don't even know where I got this remnant piece of wood. It was already stained brown, so I left that alone. And then I went to the graphics fairy again, and I printed out this retro Santa. And I did him a little bit larger. And I'm just going to Mod Podge him down, and then I'm going to Mod Podge over the top with some sparkle Mod Podge. It's got glitter in it, kind of a finer glitter, and it's kind of lots of different little colors in it. But they liked lots of glitter back then during the retro Santa time, so I wanted to make sure I used the Mod Podge with glitter. Now after that dries, I'm going to take some of this very thin ribbon. I have red and I have green. I got this ribbon from Walmart, and they were 47 cents for each roll. So very inexpensive. And I'm just going to glue down the ends around the corner of the wood. I'm going to do a green one, and then I'm going to flip it over and put some glue on the back. The glue on the side is kind of just to hold it in place until the glue on the back can get put down. And then I can take that glue on the sides off because it will show. But that's just to help hold it down while I'm working on the back. So next I'm going to do the same thing with a red ribbon. And I went with these brighter reds and green because this is the colors things were back then. They were a lot more bright red and green than a lot of times we decorate with nowadays. And by the way, on the back of this, it's just I had used it once to make an old rugged cross sign for Easter, and so there's some music on there that I had tried out for that, and then I went a different way. So I just left that on the back right now because this is just going to be for me. So now I'm going to go up on the other side, and I'm going to do the green and the red again. And the same process, put a little glue to hold it on the sides. And then when that gets dried enough, I'll do the next piece of the red, a little on each end. And then when that gets dry, I can flip it over. And then I'll pull it tight and get some glue on each of the ends. And with those dry, then I can take off the glue that we put on the sides. And since there's the Mod Podge on it, on the sides, it pops off really easily. So now I wanted to add this little word. It says believe, and it's one that I picked up at Dollar Tree. And it also is going to get a bow up there in the left hand, or excuse me, be the right hand corner on the top. So here I'm just making a bow. You just make a loop like an awareness ribbon is, and then you push down on the top and the bottom and squeeze it together to make the loops. And then you just tie it to hold everything in place. And I'm going to cut down the ribbon, and I'll hot glue this right up here in the corner. And then I decided this believe it had a little embellishment on it, and the ribbon was a black and white, or excuse me, a black and red buffalo check, but it just didn't go with this time period and the rest of the look. So I went ahead and took some more of that red and green ribbon that we used before, and I'm just tying it in a double knot, or excuse me, a double bow, and putting that in the middle, and then putting the little pine cone that was on it right back on. And here's how that came out. Our next craft is going to be a moss Christmas tree. We're going to start by taking the canvas off of one of these stretched frames, and we're going to save the canvas because we're going to use that again here. But right now I'm going to mix some black paint with some water so we can get a dark stain look for the frame part. I wanted it to fit in with our rustic theme for the day. So I'm just going through and getting all the front and the sides and the little crevices on the inside. And then I'm going to take some super glue and some hot glue, and the canvas that we cut off I'm going to glue back on. Now the moss is going to be very light, so it should hold up fine with some glue and of course some super glue. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can always use a staple gun also. So after I get that glued on, I'm going to get some of this moss, and I'm just going to take a little bit, put some hot glue on it, and then put it down onto the canvas. And you probably will want some kind of a protection for your finger because it's hard to see with the moss where you're putting it in there, and you don't want to get burned. And I'm just going to go up and make a rough outline of a Christmas tree shape. It doesn't have to be perfect, but just an outline so that it's easy when we go to trim it down. And I use Spanish moss, but you can use other colored ones if you want. And after we get that all glued on, I'm just trimming it up with some scissors and making it more into a tree shape. So now we need to make it look like a Christmas tree. I've got these little red berries, and this was from Dollar Tree, as well as the moss. And also the little words I'm going to use on the frame were also from Dollar Tree. So I'm just taking some hot glue and putting the beads on the tree. Excuse me, the berries. And then once that gets filled in, I decided I wanted to put some words on the frame. So I'm going to do Season's Greetings, and I'm going to leave them in the natural wood. My season's kind of broken too, but I got it glued on where you can't tell, so I guess that works. And then I also wanted some kind of a star at the top of the tree, so I took these gold ones that they have at Dollar Tree and I used the back side so it would match the words. And that was it. It was a very simple and easy one. Here's what it looks like.
When everything's white, glimmering silver white, and stillness fills the night, it's Christmas, a winter wonderland, a snowball in each hand, take me away.
Thank you so much for watching today. I appreciate you for all you do to help make my channel successful. Until next time, bye.